I've been cooking at Lou's Diner for 17 years. Same grill, same smell of burnt coffee and bacon grease, same crooked jukebox playing Patsy Cline on repeat. It's the kind of place where people don't ask questions, they just eat their eggs, pay in cash, and leave a tip if they're feeling decent. I liked it that way. Quiet. Predictable. But last Friday afternoon, that was the day everything changed. It started with the bell above the door jingling harder than usual. I looked up from the grill. 8 guys walked in, young, leather jackets, cocky. You could feel their energy shift the whole room. One of them flicked a toothpick onto the counter without saying a word. Another knocked over a napkin dispenser on purpose. I knew their type. I've seen enough of them try to act tough in this city. Then one of them locked the front door. "Kitchen's closed," I said, keeping my voice calm. My hand stayed busy flipping a burger. "No," said the one with bleach blonde hair and rings on every finger. "You're closed." They moved in closer, blocking exits, surrounding the counter, eyes locked on me like I was a target. "You the one who laid out Brick behind the bowling alley last week?" one of them asked. "Yeah, we heard about that. See, Brick was our guy." I didn't answer. Just wiped my hands on the apron, slowly. I hadn't gone looking for trouble that night, Brick brought it. Just like these boys were about to. They thought I was just a cook. They didn't know I used to be something else. The tall one stepped behind the counter like he owned the place, shoving a stack of clean plates to the floor. They shattered loud, sharp, like a warning shot. "You gonna stand there flippin' burgers, old man," he growled, "or you gonna beg?" A few of the regulars, an older couple by the window, a trucker sipping his 4th cup of coffee, slid out of their booths, eyes down, and hustled to the restroom or out the back. I didn't stop them. I didn't stop flipping the burger, either. The guy with the ring smacked the spatula out of my hand. It clanged to the tile floor behind the fryer. He leaned in close. I could smell the cheap whiskey on his breath. "You deaf? We're talking to you." I looked him in the eye. "I heard you. And I moved." See, there's something people forget when they try to intimidate someone who's lived through real fire. When you're calm too long, they think you're scared. But I wasn't calm because I was scared. I was calm because I was measuring. The one behind the counter didn't see the elbow until it cracked his jaw. He stumbled back, clutching his face, and I was already moving to the next. 2 steps forward, ducked under a swing, slammed the second guy's head into the edge of the counter. He dropped like a sack of wet laundry. The others froze, just for a second. But that's all I needed. The third one came at me swinging a stool. Wrong move. I stepped in before he got momentum, caught him at the wrist, and twisted. He screamed as the stool clattered to the floor. I drove a knee into his gut, folded him in half, and let him drop. Now there were 5 left. They weren't so smug anymore. They spread out like wolves, circling. I grabbed the metal coffee pot from the warmer, hot, heavy, and ready, and hurled it at the one flanking left. It shattered against his shoulder. He screamed and backed into a booth, cradling his arm. "Get him," one of them shouted, finally snapping out of the daze. 2 rushed me at once. I ducked under the first punch, grabbed the nearest guy by the shirt collar, and used his momentum to slam him headfirst into the jukebox. The music stopped cold with a crackle of sparks. The other one landed a punch, right to my ribs. I felt it. But I didn't stop. I turned into him, let the pain fuel me, and threw a hook that caught him square in the temple. His knees buckled. He hit the floor hard and didn't get up. Only 2 left now. They stood at the entrance, frozen, realizing too late this wasn't the kind of fight they'd expected. I wiped a streak of blood from my lip and stepped toward them. "You still think I'm just a cook?" I asked. They didn't answer. They ran. The bell above the diner door jingled one last time as the last two bolted into the street, nearly tripping over each other. I watched them disappear around the corner, their bravado gone, just kids playing gangster until reality hit like a cast-iron skillet. I exhaled slow. My ribs ached. My knuckles stung. My apron was half torn and smeared with more than just grease. Behind me, a plate still sizzled on the grill, the burger charred to hell. I turned the heat off. The old trucker peeked out from behind the restrooms. "You alright, Manny?" "Yeah," I said, grabbing a rag to wipe the counter. "Just another lunch rush." The old couple crept back to their table, whispering. A siren wailed in the distance. Someone must have called it in. Good. Let M. I walked to the back, rinsed my hands, and checked the small black box tucked behind the flour bins. It was still there. Untouched. My service badge. U.S. Marshal, retired. I hadn't touched it in years. Didn't need to. But people forget, some cooks aren't just cooks. Some of us have stories we don't talk about. I looked out the diner window, watching the rain start to fall over the street, washing away the blood and the boot scuffs. Then I grabbed a clean plate, dropped a fresh patty on the grill, and went back to doing what I do best. Serving breakfast. And protecting what's mine. 3 days later, the diner was quiet again. The damage had been cleaned up. The jukebox was fixed. Regulars returned like nothing happened, though now they looked at me a little differently. Less like I was the guy who made perfect hash browns, more like someone they didn't want to cross. It was just past 2 p.m. when the front door opened. This time, it wasn't a gang. It was a man in a tailored black suit, clean-shaven, mid-40s, eyes sharp. He didn't sit. Just walked to the counter and placed a small envelope in front of me. "Mind if I call you Marshall?" I didn't answer. I just raised an eyebrow. He smirked. I figured. Word got around. I glanced at the envelope. No name. Just a gold seal. "I'm not interested," I said, turning back to the grill. He didn't move. They were part of something bigger. "You didn't just knock out a gang, Manny. You lit a match. The kind that draws shadows." I stared at him, arms crossed. "What do you want?" He slid the envelope closer. "You still have instincts. You still protect. We could use someone like you, off the books." I let the silence sit heavy. Then I pushed the envelope back toward him. "I already have a job." He studied me a second longer, then gave a short nod and turned to leave. Before he stepped outside, he paused. "If things get messy again, don't wait for us to show up. You're not invisible anymore." The bell jingled as he disappeared into the sunlight. I stood there for a moment, hands resting on the counter, the smell of grilled onions in the air. Then I flipped the next order slip from the spindle. Life goes on. But I kept the envelope. Just in case. Later that night, I sat alone in the back booth. Lights dimmed. Chairs flipped. Diner closed. I hadn't opened the envelope. Not yet. It sat on the table beside my coffee, untouched, like a secret daring me to break the silence I'd built for years. I wasn't just protecting this place. I was hiding in it. When I walked away from the Marshal Service, I did it with purpose. Too many missions gone gray. Too many lines crossed. I traded the badge for a spatula, the pistol for a pan, and I told myself that was enough. But the truth is, a man never really forgets what he's capable of. My eyes drifted to the old Polaroid above the register. It looked like just a picture of me and Lou on opening day, him with his goofy smile, me in a white apron. But behind the frame was something else, a flash drive. Hidden. Encrypted. The last insurance policy I'd ever kept. Just in case ghosts came looking. The gang last week wasn't random. That suit wasn't bluffing. They knew my name. My past. They'd planned that trap not just to hurt me, but to send a message. Only problem was, I'd sent one louder. I took a breath, reached for the envelope, and finally opened it. Inside wasn't a job offer. It was a photo. Grainy, night vision. A compound somewhere in the desert. Marked figures moving crates. One of the faces circled in red. Brick. The guy I put down 2 weeks ago. Only, he wasn't supposed to be alive. I leaned back in the booth, tension building in my chest. Something bigger was coming. And no matter how much I tried to leave that world behind, it just walked back through my door. The following morning, I opened the diner early. Too early. The sky was still bruised with dawn, the streets empty, quiet like the city was holding its breath. I hadn't slept. That photo burned in my mind, brick alive and moving weapons. That wasn't some petty gang activity. That was organized, military grade. And if he'd survived what I did to him, someone helped him. Someone powerful. At 6:17 a.m., the bell above the door rang. It wasn't a customer. It was Lisa. She used to run communications for our team back in the service. Quiet, brilliant, and too good for the things we dragged her into. Last I heard, she disappeared to Oregon, working under an alias. But there she was, same sharp eyes, windbreaker zipped up to the neck, scanning the room like her life depended on it. She sat at the counter, didn't order. Just slid her phone toward me, screen already lit with a satellite image. "Do you know what this is?" she asked. It was the same compound from the envelope. But this one showed recent movement, for black SUVs, helicopters nearby, and a heat signature shaped like a tunnel underground. "I thought you were out," she said. "I was," I replied. She tapped the screen. "They're pulling names off the old roster. Anyone who ever got close to Project Latchkey." That hit hard. Latchkey wasn't just a mission, it was a black site op gone wrong. Weapons, experiments, vanishing agents. We buried it for a reason. And now it was surfacing again. I leaned against the counter, hands clenched. "Why come to me?" I asked. She looked me dead in the eye. "Because you're the last one they're afraid of." Then she reached into her coat and dropped a folded sheet of paper next to the phone. A list. My name was at the bottom. Above it, 7 others. 5 had already been crossed out. I stared at the list. 7 names. All familiar. Old teammates. Operatives. Ghosts. 5 of them now nothing more than ink crossed through paper, dead, disappeared, or worse. Only 2 remained uncrossed, mine, and someone named Keller. That name stopped me cold. I hadn't thought about Keller in over a decade. He was the one they called in when things got ugly. A tactical genius, but unpredictable, volatile. Last we heard, he went off-grid after Latchkey collapsed, swearing vengeance against the very agency we worked for. And now, if he wasn't dead, then he might be the one behind all of this. Lisa leaned forward. "They're using Brick as bait, trying to flush you out. You beat their crew in the diner, so they'll send something worse next time. You're not safe here." "I'm not running," I said. "You think staying makes you a hero?" she snapped. "They're killing everyone tied to that op. You're the last firewall, and once you're gone, they wipe it clean like we never existed." I stayed silent for a moment. The smell of fresh coffee brewing. The hiss of the grill warming up behind me. It was strange how normal it all felt. I finally looked up. "You got gear?" She nodded once. "In the car." "Good," I said. "Lock the door. Flip the sign. We're closed." Lisa raised a brow. "Just like that?" I picked up the phone and dialed an old number, one I hadn't used in years. It rang once. Twice. Then someone answered with a single word, ready. I said, "Keller's alive." A pause. Then, where? "Don't know yet," I said, glancing at the photo on Lisa's phone. "But I'm gonna find out." And this time, I wasn't going in as a cook. I was going in as what I truly was, a hunter. We left the diner just after sunset. Lisa drove a battered gray SUV with government plates, probably fake. In the back were two go bags, one marked with an old unit crest, the other newer, heavier. I opened mine in silence. Inside, a suppressed sidearm, a tactical knife, burner phone, encrypted comms, and a small steel case with a thumbprint lock. When I opened it, I saw it again, the badge I swore I'd never wear. U.S. Marshal, Special Operations Division. Retired, but not forgotten. Lisa drove fast, weaving through back roads as the city lights disappeared behind us. She said the satellite tracked activity near a fuel depot just outside Ridgefield, one of the old shadow sites we once used for transport before the latchkey fallout. That's where they spotted Brick again. As we neared the site, she handed me an earpiece. "We won't have long. If Keller's building something, it's already in motion." I checked the chamber of my weapon. "Then we don't knock." We parked half a mile out, hiked through brush and gravel until the fence came into view, rusted, patched with motion sensors and old cam feeds. I disabled the closest one with a magnetic bypass and cut the chain quietly. Inside the compound, the air smelled like oil and dust. Rows of crates. Armed guards. No uniforms, just hardened faces, mercenaries. I counted at least a dozen. We moved like ghosts, clearing the south corridor. No alarms, no chatter. These guys weren't amateurs. Then we heard it. A voice over comms, raspy, calm, unmistakable. "If you're hearing this, you're already too late." Lisa's eyes widened. "It's him. Keller." My pulse slowed. Not from fear. From focus. He knew we were coming. And somehow, I had the feeling he wanted us here. We crept deeper into the compound. Lisa checked corners while I led the way through steel corridors echoing with low hums and distant footfalls. Then came the door. Wide. Reinforced. 2 guards posted. I motioned to Lisa, left flank. I took right. One silent takedown. Then another. Both men dropped before they could reach their radios. We breached the door. Inside, a single overhead light swinging. A dusty room lined with monitors, maps, and crates stamped with outdated government seals. In the center sat a figure in a chair, back to us. "Keller," I called out. He didn't move. "Turn around." He did. Older. Rough beard. One eye scarred over. But the grin? Same as ever. "Took you long enough, Manny," he said. "I was beginning to think you'd actually retired." I kept my weapon up. "You faked Brick's death. Set up that ambush at the diner." "Why?" He stood slowly, unarmed. "Because I needed to know if the fire was still in you. Turns out it is." Lisa stepped forward. "You killed 5 of your own. What was the point?" "They weren't ours anymore," Keller said. "They sold Latchkey out. Sold us out. You think we shut that project down?" "No. They just rebranded it. Buried it deeper. And now it's starting again, new recruits, new tech, no oversight." I had to act. I kept my aim steady. "So what's this? Revenge?" He looked at me, dead serious. "This is justice." He stepped back and tapped a keyboard. The monitors flickered to life, surveillance from hidden facilities, proof of continued experiments, names of those funding it. Then he raised his hands. I knew they'd never believe me. But you're the only one they still trust. He took a slow breath. I'm done running. Either shoot me, or use what I gave you. The room was quiet. I didn't pull the trigger. Instead, I holstered my weapon. Lisa stared. What are you doing? I turned to her. Finishing what we started. Exposing it all. We copied the drives, secured the intel, and when we walked out, we left Keller behind. He didn't follow. Maybe he knew his role was over. Maybe he never planned to leave. We burned the compound to the ground that night. Back at the diner, things went on like always, coffee, eggs, jukebox humming soft. But I knew this was only the beginning. They'd come for the truth eventually. And when they did, they'd find me waiting. Just a cook. With fire in his hands.